Welcome to Do That Well. I'm your host, Brenda Brown, and virtually along my side, Karen Thrall. Today on Do That Well, we are going to talk about filler words. We will talk about how you can lessen your use of filler words, as well as other words that you might be able to use to replace those filler words that might actually also help you sound a little more sophisticated.
And who would have thought that there's actually words you can literally use instead of
Filler.
what's funny is literally is a filler word, and I just did one. This will be interesting. This could be an interesting
This
episode.
is going to be a fun time.
Oh.
So,
Mm.
there's another one, a filler word. But the reason that we're doing this episode is in editing, Karen and I realized that there are certain words that we tend to rely on a lot.
Yes.
For
Yes.
myself, it's the word like. Horrible, horrible offender. And as we dug further into our editing, we just found that there are more and more little words that we're using as
Mhm.
filler. And for ourselves in this journey and making this podcast, it was something we recognized we want to be
Mm.
more aware of and something we would like to cut down on. And we figured that might be something that our audience is curious about as well.
Mhm. I have to say, it's probably one of the coolest things about doing this podcast and listening to us, our recording, and seeing all that. I didn't even know I had all these filler words until we started doing a podcast. The ums, the the so, the like, the actually, the literally, and there's so many. And why do we do it? Like, why do we have filler words in the first place? What are we trying to convey, and how do we minimize them? Because they're not going to go away completely, and you don't actually want them to go away completely, but minimizing would be a good idea.
It's so true. And it's interesting because different people have different words that they'll rely on. And sometimes it's not even necessarily just a word, it can actually be a turn of phrase, something that we'll find that we rely on heavily. Or maybe it's one that we just learned. And so it crops up in our
Mhm,
vocabulary a lot. So the
mhm,
more you
mhm,
listen, the more you'll start to identify in yourself as well as those around you all of these
mhm,
filler words that we really do use in our
mhm,
language.
mhm. And it's interesting because some of the main reasons that most of us are familiar with is we are nervous, we're unsure fully of what we're trying to say, we're unprepared, so we're having to wing it a little bit. So those are three that are big. We're in a hurry, so we're rushing through our thoughts, and so it's very natural, and we all do it. And bringing it to attention, I think is going to help. Well, it's definitely going to help me because now I'm going to have to hold myself accountable. But this is such a great episode, and it made me, I know personally, made me want to look at the English language even beyond that. I started, like, as soon as we started doing filler words, and I started thinking, well, why don't I use that word anymore? And what about that option? And I started exploring the English language as well. So this will be cool.
So, before we really dive in and get into the meat and bones of this episode, let's talk a little bit more about what filler words are. I know, Karen, as we were preparing for this episode, something that we talked about was that there is this difference between a filler word that you're using truly as just filler and then a filler word that you're using when there is likely another word that would suit the same purpose that would sound more prestige. So when I say that, an example, I said earlier that I know I use the word like a lot. And a lot of those times when I'm saying the word like, it's not because I am trying to give an example. So I'm not
Mm.
using like in the to mean as an example. I'm just using like the same way someone would say or stutter. I'm doing it really just to fill space.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the way that you're going to attack and combat that and try to take that word out of my vocabulary is going to look differently than if it was only because I was using it always to say an example or for
Mhm.
instance or
Mhm.
such as. So those are words I could use instead of like, but that's not going to help me if I'm just using like
Yeah.
as a breath almost.
Yeah, and it's almost to find out what is the word that you lean towards. Like for me, it's the word "so." And now that I'm aware of it, I say it a lot. Like say "so" a lot, and I stop myself and I'll go so. 'Cause I'm trying to stop saying the word, and yep, there it is again. Like I keep and calling it because I read an article where it's actually good to just call it out so you're aware of it. And I start my phrases with "so, Karen, how are you?" "So, I'm doing good." Like there's no need for this word "so" to be there. And what I've been learning is to pause. And I think for me, I need to pause before I speak. It's almost like I'm inhaling. So, and then I'm going to say what I have to say. And if I can learn how to just pause, Karen, how are you? I'm doing great. And I know that's going to help me a lot, that 1-2 second lull and to dive right into the actual sentence. So that's one of my tricks I'm working on as we speak. This is like a live this is live learning happening right here.
And slowing down, I think, is a really good starting point. Bringing your awareness to it and slowing down. I know that I also tend to lean on my filler words, such as like more when I am really trying to speed through saying something, or when my mind is racing faster than my mouth can keep
Mhm.
up with me. And
Yeah.
so that's when a lot of those filler words start coming in because I'm not really connecting my speech to where my brain is at.
Mhm.
Anybody that is ADD or ADHD out there
Mhm.
knows that one really well.
Mhm. Yeah. I know that another one that I'm working on and I'm seeing some success already, which I'm very happy about. I did not know that I say "you know." And I am using to volley back the conversation or to get a response or to just finish my sentence. I'm finished talking, and I could just say I'm finished talking now. But this, it's like I'm announcing that I'm done and I would like a response, please. And I don't need to do any of that. And I've been working really hard on. And the reason is there was one time we were editing this podcast, one of the episodes, and I said, 14 times. And that's when I went, wow, like that is a lot for 30 minutes. And like, oh no, actually 15 minutes of the 30, I'm saying, 14 times. That's once a minute. And so that was just a huge wake up call for me. And I am forcing myself to just stop the sentence, even if it's awkward, because I don't want to use that filler anymore.
That is a
Hey,
really common
Brenda,
one.
you know?
You know?
You
Do you
know
know what
what
I'm
I mean?
saying?
You know what
I
I'm
think
saying?
that's such a common one though. I know that I say, a lot as well, and I can hear my friends saying it in my mind right now. I think that's one that we all tend to lean on a lot.
Mhm,
And I do think sometimes when we say, we're trying to create buy-in.
mhm,
I know that
mhm,
sometimes I use it that way. It's a way of me saying, "What do you think?" or
mhm, mhm,
"Do you agree?" or
mhm.
so even there it is. So but even in that example, you can
Mhm,
see that there is another way that you can still say, without actually
mhm,
using the words, if you
mhm.
are using it to try and create dialogue with someone else.
And the thing is to even say, "What do you think?" You have an opinion just like you said earlier. What do you think? What do you think about that? Which is actually a way more fun phrase to say because the person is going to respond for sure. What do you think about that? And instead of just doing the, another one too that I think that we're all really familiar with, and it's oh, here I go. I just did it. Guess what it is, Brenda? Guess which word I was going to bring up.
Um,
Um, and that is also, and I did it right there where I'm thinking of how to formulate the phrase. And instead of being comfortable with silence, I throw in an It's because I want you to know that I'm not done talking yet. And I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. So where there is an element of being uncomfortable with the silence and not losing the listener. And we just go and and ah. Those are hard to break. They are very much part of our culture. In Canada, it's a, eh. So it's the filler word is a. And I find in the States it's and I so the Canadians end the phrase with a filler and the Americans start a phrase with a filler. So we've got it covered. Both nations together, we've got this covered.
and it is so interesting because it is going to change as well geographically, depending on where you are, the different filler words that might be present. So we can see, let me actually say every single filler word in succession for you right now because I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to say next. That's where we're at.
Oh man.
What I was trying to say is that this is such an interesting topic, and you can see that the deeper you dive into this topic, the more there is to uncover, the more filler words we're finding, the more heavily you start to recognize you're leaning on these filler words. And it's not our intention to make anyone feel bad about the way they talk, but it's something that we recognized we do a lot and we would like to change for
Yeah,
ourselves.
yes.
So,
And I am doing the research. There are some really cool resources or techniques to stop using filler words if you want to. We want to. And I think in the second part is also of this podcast is when we're going to get to like, well, what can we use? What words can we use? So for now, but some of the things we can do to stop filler words, and I'm practicing that. So the first one is practice, is you practice. And that's why I was telling you when I use the word so, I go so. I just make a joke out of it because it's driving me crazy how many times I use the word. And I'm practicing stopping and I'm making a joke out of it. Another one is relax, like we were saying earlier, is relax and slow down your thoughts, slow down, calm yourself, breathe. There's no hurry. We have all the time in the world for you. And for those of you who are being mindful of filler words, to give that gift to the other person. There's something about when someone sees that I'm very relaxed and I have all the time to listen to you, so take your time. You're going to empower and somebody else to find all the words they need without feeling rushed. So that's a really cool one. So pause, rest, like slow down, practice. And the one that I thought was really interesting, and what we're doing is they suggest you record yourself and then play it back. And this way you can listen to all the filler words. Well, that's what we're doing every week. We sit in front of this editing machine going, oh my gosh, and I have to, I'm trying to find all the so's. And if you look at the reading, there's the so actually has a little it has the same consistent lines in the volumes, and so I just look for those consistent lines, and I can tell there's a so, there's a so, there's a so, there's a so, and editing that. But they do say to record and hear yourself, and it is true. I can witness to that. It's so true that what you find out about how you talk, it's all there. Really, really interesting.
we've talked about recording yourself before in a different context, but it is a powerful tool when you're trying to learn a new skill that involves your voice.
Mhm,
Recording yourself and listening back to it is a
mhm.
really effective method to
Yeah.
learn more.
I think too, on a professional level, if if you're somebody like me who doesn't think on their feet and does need time to reflect on their thoughts, two quick solutions. One is give me a minute, skip my turn, give me a minute and come back to me. I'm going to gather my thoughts. And you just call it out. So if you are somebody who says and like and so, and you're find yourself, it's losing your voice, you feel like your voice is being lost in these filler words and you don't have that punch and that confidence, just ask to be skipped, and then you will go next, and this way you're gathering your thoughts. The second thing to do is be more prepared. As much as I don't want to be prepared when it comes to speaking, I have to be prepared. I admire the people, and I have tons of friends. They can just wing it. I mean, it's brilliant. I'm so impressed and I look up to them for it. I don't have that. I don't have that. So if I'm going to share my thoughts, I really do have to rehearse them, reflect on them, write them down, and slow everything down and be sure of what I want to say. And that really does help filler words. Even in our podcast, I can tell when I'm confident about a subject, I will be more relaxed. And if I'm uncertain or I need to do more research, I can hear everything shifting in me. And I'm sure that the listeners, you can too. You can tell. Oh, Karen loves this topic. Oh, Karen's not sure of this topic. And they do say, like, it's good to just talk about it and bring it out into the open. We're all, we're do that well. Hey, do non-fillers well.
Those are all some really good tips on how we can try to lessen the filler words when we're using filler purely as just that, filling time, filling space. But we did promise you that we were also going to talk about when you're using fillers because it's a word that there is an alternate word for. That sentence was structured oddly. Hopefully you're all still here with me. Such as, like earlier, when you're using it to actually say an example or for instance. So there are a lot of words that we use where there's a different word that could better suit your needs. So let's transition into that because I think this is a bit more fun because this is something that you can action really quickly.
With that, I noticed it was something you can also do to help you is in your emails, see how many times you repeat the same word and change it. So that's going to help you as well to learn how to use different words in your vocabulary. And let's say for me, I use the word great and very good and very great and awesome and fantastic, terrific. Like I'm constantly trying to change the words around in my emails so that I'm not regurgitating the same adjectives or the same adverbs or the same words over and over again. That will help in when you're speaking. You're just going to increase your repertoire of words to use for
What
for
are
filler.
some other words that we typically use where there is a different word that we could use instead? So we went over like. We also touched on earlier. If you're using as a way to create dialogue. So instead of saying you could say, what are your thoughts? What's your perspective? Do you have anything else to add?
Another one I think is really common is okay, yeah, sure. If these really one, okay, yeah, sure, cool. Can you see how the perception that can leave a perception? Okay, yeah, sure, cool. If I said that same reply and I went, certainly, of course, absolutely, I agree, excellent. It is a contrast for sure. It's a contrast. And how do you, I think what do you want to convey? You actually brought up, and I'm going to pass this back to you because I liked what you said. How do you want to convey yourself in different cultures and different environments, different groups? You're always going to be your best, but there is different vibes in each environments that you don't like. You could be playing badminton and going, certainly. Can you throw that? Certainly can. Like, you can't do that. But I don't know why I said badminton. Where did that come from? Badminton. Okay. Anyways. But there is a time where I'm going to go, yeah, I'll throw it over because it's casual and it's comfortable. Certainly, I will toss that over to you right now. So we do have to figure out to certain environments. I'd love to pass that back to you because you're the one who actually brought that up, which I thought was very insightful. And I said actually, which is a filler word.
Oh no. I'm just gonna say that I'm fairly confident that we've used more filler words in this episode than any other episode so far.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to avoid them. It's Murphy's Law. It's Murphy's Law.
I agree.
But no, I do think that in this conversation of trying to widen our vocabulary, decrease filler words, use more eloquent words instead, you do want to keep in mind your audience and who you're talking to. Because as you said, the tone or, what's the word that I'm looking for? The complication or, or of the word that you're using, it's not always going to be right depending on the setting you're in. So in a professional setting, if you're at work, you probably are going to err more towards the side of saying things like, certainly, of course, how can I action that? What is my objective instead of saying my goal? What is my objective? Words like that, I think in the workplace, you're going to find yourself leaning on a lot. Whereas if I'm just talking to you, Karen, I don't need to say, well, what is our objective for this podcast today? I can say, what are we thinking? What is our thoughts? What are our goals? Because it's a more casual setting. And the reason that I did think of this was because at one point in my time, I did actually have someone tell me that they thought that I was overspeaking. And to be quite honest, when I was told that, I didn't even know what that word meant, and I had to look it up, which probably proves I wasn't overspeaking because I didn't even know what overspeaking meant. But it was this idea that I was being too verbose, so that I was using words that were too big or not accessible or not words that everybody would have a grasp of. And so they felt that I was alienating people a little bit with the way that I was talking. Basically, it was a nice way of telling me that they thought I sounded kind of pompous, which is fine. However, it did get me thinking about this idea that you need to think about who your audience is when you're talking to them, because that's also buy-in, one of our favorite things that we like to talk about, buy-in and rapport.
That's a good point.
Right? So if you can cater your language to the person that you're with, you're going to create more rapport with that person. You're going to create more buy-in. It's going to make a stronger bond because you're mirroring them. And people like that. We like to feel like we can identify with the people that we're talking to and conversing with.
So we have filler words. So our purpose for filler words is, how do we figure out how not to use filler words so that we can have fuller sentences? Our confidence can really shine through. We're not doubting the thoughts. We're slowing down. We're gathering, we're taking the time. There's all these reasons why we want to not have filler words. It does enhance the listeners. The less filler words you use, the more enjoyable it is to listeners. So for those of you listening, if you would like to do more speaking, or you would like to, or you're in boardroom settings or things like that, filler words, like, pay attention. That's one place you can just start removing them. The second thing I'm hearing you saying is culturally, environmentally, just we're going to be very casual in some settings, and then we're going to be a little more formal. That is really good advice, Brenda, because I would say it's worth exploring. It's worth, if you will do well by being a little more formal in your English, why not? If the environment is really promoting a little bit more formalities, enjoy it, have fun with it. And if the environment is promoting super casual, where you don't have to finish any sentence and you can just relax and just let it be and have the lingo and the slang, enjoy every moment of it. And what I would say as well is, but always be yourself. Like you don't want to polish your English language to be impressive. You want to polish your English language because it's fun, because you're enjoying it and you want to expand your vocabulary. And you're not doing casual because you want to fit in and you want them to like you. Well, no, that's not why you're doing it. So I really appreciate what you said, Brenda. There's some great advice in there.
And thank you for adding sort of that addendum in a way to my thought, because that is a really good point. I do think, as you said, you do also need to make sure that you're not throwing authenticity out the door when you are thinking about your audience and the way that that's affecting your speech, because it does still need to be true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can definitely think of times where I've used a new slang word that I thought was really cool still, and it wasn't. Granted, I'm pretty sure I made a joke about it, like, "Do people still say this?" You know? But
Yeah, yeah. I
but
think
it's
we're all
is
guilty.
it is a thing, you know?
Hmm.
So you do need to make sure that it still feels natural to you and that it feels authentic to you and that it's something you would actually use.
I actually thought it'd be fun to start a trend on some words. I do have a couple that I think
Yeah.
would be
What do
fun
you
to
have for
start.
us?
I think I'd like to bring back noisome. Noisome.
What is that?
Noisome. It means annoying and obnoxious, like a noisome office or a noisome, a noisome store or a noisome. And it's just like it's an annoying noise.
I like that.
Oh, Karen, you're being so noisome. Because it sounds kind of nice. It's like, aw, thanks. No, it wasn't. But like instead of saying such harsher words like, "Oh, don't be obnoxious" or "Don't be annoying," it can be, "Oh, so noisome."
And noisome.
So I thought I'm gonna start a new trend of noisome.
I like that one.
So yeah, the kids are playing in the park. It's very noisome. The train is going by my house. It's very noisome. So I decided I'd throw that one out there. Noisome. It may
That's
not
a
stick, but it might stick. You
but it
never
might.
know. It
It
might.
might.
Okay, I have one for you though.
Okay. What is it?
Elf lock. Elf lock.
What what is that one?
It probably happens to you in the morning if you don't braid your hair when you're sleeping. It gets all tangled, curly hair.
Oh, tangled.
So you
Okay.
can say, Victor, oh wow, my hair, it's elf lock. You go to salon and go, oh, okay, can you do something with the elf lock? I don't know. I think it's
That
who
one's
says
really funny.
who says elf lock? Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody says elf lock.
There's the duck in the commercials that says Aflac. It's very
There we
similar,
go.
but
Yes.
no Elflock.
I bet you're gonna start saying it, elf lock. What am I gonna do with this elf lock? I gotta put up in a braid.
Yeah, I see some of my Elflock right now. Oh, that's so fun. See, this is fun. This is a
I know.
fun
It
thing.
is. It
Expanding
is.
your vocabulary. It's a fun topic.
There we go.
Well, on that note, that is all the time we have for today on our episode about filler words. I know that I am going to be listening very carefully to all of my recordings and, making those little tick marks, seeing how many times I say things like, and like and so.
Mhm.
And we'll play a game in a month. Let's see if we've
Yes.
decreased it all.
Yes. We're gonna
So
start
you can
tallying it.
So, if any of you audience members want to play along with us, let's take a tally of how many filler words we use today, and let's take another tally in a month and see where we're
Yes.
at.
There we
Hopefully, there's some
go.
improvement.
I like that. That's a great goal.
It's a great objective.
We just
All right. Well, that is all we have for today, and thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week on Do That Well.
bye bye.